Hello everyone. Apologies for the time it has been since my last video. Today marks one of the absolute most important dates in all of human history. On this day, a certain person left their home country to link the two hemispheres in a way that has changed the world ever since. That man is, of course, Christopher Columbus. In this video, I will objectively tell the story of his life and what he did. I'm not going to glorify him or attach things that he is blamed for centuries after his death. With that, let's begin. Enjoy. On some date between August and October of 1451, possibly on Halloween, Christopher Columbus was born Cristoforo Colombo to a family of somewhat poor wool weavers in this home in the port city of Genoa in northwestern Italy. This city was Venice's arch nemesis, trying to always outdo them in trade. His father, Domenico, who there aren't really any pictures of, was the owner of the family's weaving business. While he could be a poor provider, he was well liked in the community. Cristoforo's mother, Susanna Fontana Rosa, was born into a rich Catholic family originating from the island of Corsica. They gained their wealth from a sprawling real estate empire. Columbus had three brothers, Bartholomew, Giovanni, and Giacomo, also one sister, Bianchinetta. Not much is known about Columbus's childhood. It is believed that despite their poor status, Columbus had a good education, learning multiple languages including Italian and most likely Latin, as he had a keen interest in classical literature. Being in a port city, he would naturally be drawn to sailing, which would become his favorite pastime in his teens. It is not clear who taught him to sail, but it is clear that he would learn his way around the steering wheel by the age of 20. In 1476, at roughly 25, Columbus would move to Lisbon, Portugal, to move into his nautical career. The driving focus of why he wanted to sail was for economic reasons, being more drawn to the idea of being a merchant than a wool weaver. While sailing around the Madeira archipelago as he familiarized himself with the Atlantic, Columbus stopped on the port island of Porto Santo. It would be here that he would marry the noblewoman Doña Felipa Perestreo y Moniz in 1479. Columbus and Felipa would settle into island life for the next few years, having their first child, Diego, in 1479. By the 1480s, Columbus grew more ambitious in his mission to explore more distant locations. In 1484, he went to the royal court of King John II of Portugal, asking him to finance his first transatlantic voyage. John was like, let me dump some responsibility on my advisors. His advisors told him the truth. Columbus estimated that the distance across the Atlantic from Lisbon was 2,400 nautical miles. According to their correct calculations, Columbus was off by a factor of 4. But the king rejected Columbus's plea. Dejected, Columbus and his family would move to Spain to beg their monarchs instead. In 1485, Columbus settled in Cordoba, taking a mistress named Beatriz Enriquez de Arana after his wife's death, having his second child, Ferdinand. The next year, King Ferdinand and Isabella of Spain agreed to hear Columbus's case. Possibly after hearing about what had transpired in Lisbon, Ferdinand and Isabella would take suspicion to Columbus. Fearful of sparking conflict with Muslims that may be encountered by Columbus, or his faulty nautical calculations, it would be 6 long years of begging for Columbus. Talk about desperate. By 1492, Ferdinand suddenly thought, this Columbus bloke won't stop yapping, and he could start some trading routes to get me some moolah. That, combined with some friars haggling him, will lead to them finally giving Columbus their financial support. With this, Columbus got ready for his first voyage. Through the spring and summer of 1492, Columbus would be given 3 ships, the Pinta, Santa Maria, and La Nina, to make his voyage. Having gained a crew of 88 on this day, August 3rd, 532 years ago in 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue, if you will, on his first transatlantic voyage. For the next 2 months, his crew would slowly travel across the Atlantic. On October 12th, land was spotted on the horizon. That day, Columbus landed on the island of Guanahani, the native Taino name meaning small upper waters land. He would instead name it San Salvador. Noticing the shallow waters in the archipelago, he named it Baja Mar for low sea, claiming what is now the Bahamas for Spain. He would describe the natives oddly, being of course scared, but also as como bestias, or like beasts. He even had the nerve to kidnap a few and bring them on a ship, All in all, he stated that he, quote, discovered many islands, thickly peopled, of which I took possession without resistance in the name of our most illustrious monarch, by public proclamation and with unfurled banners. By the 28th, he reached Cuba. Now, Columbus wasn't the first to reach the Americas. The natives had done that 20,000 years earlier, and Leif Erikson had been to Canada 500 years earlier, but Columbus was the first to establish a long-term presence of Europeans in the region. On December 5th, the crew made it to Haiti, naming the island Hispaniola, currently home to Haiti and the Dominican Republic. In January, he was ready to head back to Spain with around 25 native Tainos that he had kidnapped, only one surviving, also taking tobacco, pineapples, a turkey, and why not, a hammock. He showed all of this to Ferdinand and Isabella. Ferdinand was fixated on one thing above all, the shiny yellow rocks. Columbus had found gold, and Ferdinand would do anything for more. The same year, Ferdinand told Columbus to go back to this mysterious land which he thought was Asia to bring him more items back and to formalize his presence there. The main purpose of the second voyage was to spread Christianity to the natives, also having many more ships. On November 3rd of 1493, he arrived once more, this time to the island of Dominica, natively called Waitukumbuli, meaning her body is tall, by natives who still live there today. After this, he sailed by Guadalupe, where some natives volunteered to join him. After this, some nasty stuff would occur. Some Arawak natives may have been angered by Columbus's presence, taking 2 of his male crew members captive, even taking off their parts. Furious, Columbus pursued them, being met with a hail of arrows from the natives, fleeing on their canoe. Having caught up, his crew would behead the natives on board. In this skirmish, Columbus's childhood bestie, Michele da Cuneo, would kidnap one of the Arawak women, who Columbus let him keep as a slave, only for Michele to rape her. "Sir, you are a disgrace!" On the 17th of November, Columbus arrived at Boriken, or Puerto Rico. Those natives from Guadalupe recognized this as their homeland, stating that in war, male captives were eaten, and their sons would also lose their parts. Columbus took 3 boys on board to avoid this. On the 22nd, he reached Hispaniola again, founding the first settlement in the Americas by Europeans, La Isabela, as an outpost to look for gold and convert natives. He also saw corpses of his crew members that had been kidnapped by natives, so there's that. By 1495, an epidemic swept through the colony, killing Spaniards and natives alike. Columbus would rule in La Isabela with an iron fist, even dismembering Spanish settlers for minor crimes. Also, Columbus's brother Bartholomew founded Santo Domingo, the oldest city in the Americas. Columbus left in June of that year. Round 3 had the goal of confirming the existence of a continent near the Caribbean. On July 31st of 1498, Columbus reached the island of Ka-Iri, naming it Trinidad. On August 1st, he spotted South America, still thinking it was Asia, or even the Garden of Eden. Following a tsunami and an infection causing his eyes to go bloodshot, natives helped treat Columbus's symptoms. If only he would pay them a little, respect. After this, he made some wildly inaccurate astronomical observations that led him to believe the Earth was pear-shaped. Anyways, he sailed back to Santo Domingo on the 19th, only to find his settlers were in open rebellion against him. They hated his treatment of the natives and his greedy economic system, lobbying the Spanish court against him. A patron of Columbus named Francisco de Bobadilla would give a harrowing account of Columbus's reaction to this rebellion, alleging that he had Spaniards hung constantly, a woman was whipped on a donkey for not saying that she was pregnant, a boy's hand was cut off, a man's throat was cut for being gay, and a woman who insulted him lost her tongue. His actions would not go forgotten, as King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella would have him sent to Spain in chains in 1500, according to his own wishes for some reason, as a prisoner for his poor treatment of, everyone. Saddened, he said, quote, "Now at the end of my days have been despoiled of my honor and my property without cause, wherein is neither justice nor mercy." After promising to not mistreat anyone else, they let him go, but without the ability to govern anyone. What a voyage. Now on incredibly thin ice, Ferdinand and Isabella for some reason trusted Columbus to go out on one more voyage, as long as he stayed away from Santo Domingo to stop him from torturing literally everyone, and that he would find a trade route by trying to be the first to circumnavigate the world. On June 15th, 1502, he reached Mariana, land of flowers, naming it Martinique. Columbus then asked Bobadilla, the guy given his job after narking his torture to the monarchs, to take some of his gold back to Spain. However, after a storm caused most of his ships and treasure to sink along with 500 drowning, Columbus was furious, accusing Bobadilla of conjuring the storm. How intelligent. For the next few months until October, he would explore Central America's coast, including Honduras, Nicaragua, Costa Rica, and Panama, thinking it was near India. In December, he experienced the most intense storm of his life, saying, quote, "For 9 days I was one lost, without hope of life." By May, a storm trapped Columbus in Jamaica for a year. Fearful of the natives, Columbus told them that the ongoing lunar eclipse was a sign that they must help him as their god wanted. Awestruck, the natives somehow gave in. After one more mutiny for good luck, Columbus was ready to finally throw in the towel in the Americas, returning to Spain for good in September of 1504. Once back, Christopher saw that Isabella had died and remembered how much he could piss off Spain's monarchs with his begging, and so he would go after Ferdinand to beg for privileges. After moving to Spain and then to Valladolid to attend Ferdinand's second wedding and also keep following him on his beg quest, Columbus fell deathly ill. Severe arthritis had caught up to him, and on May 20th, 1506, Columbus died. His family would continue on begging Ferdinand for privileges, coping at this point for his distaste in them, threatening to sue. Geez, Ferdinand, get a restraining order. Columbus was either buried in Santo Domingo or Seville. Cool tomb. Columbus was, and is still, a mixed man. Sickening horrors he did commit on natives and Spaniards alike, with his diseases killing so many the Earth's climate cooled. However, the link that he formally established between the Americas and Europe would permanently change world history to come, allowing for trade to bring items that we still hold dearly today. Is he good or bad? It is best to know him as a man of severely poor choices, yet ones that still impact us to this day, half a millennia later. And with that was my history on the life of Christopher Columbus and a history on his voyages. I had to cut out some details that were a little bit too saucy for YouTube and would have gotten this video demonetized. Thank you for Columbusing all the way to the end of this video. I'm not sure when my next video will be out, but until then, thanks for watching.